Russia has placed Taiwan on its list of countries with hostile values. This raises an interesting question. Does it mean that Russia and China are hostile towards each other? While this could suggest a conflict of interest, Russia-China relations are often described as a friendly alliance, demonstrating the complexity of their diplomatic ties. But the fact of calling Taiwan a hostile state means that Russia is also violating the One China principle. Hi everyone, this is Stan, your favorite Polish Taiwan YouTuber. Hope you're having a great day. Welcome to today's show. This September, Taiwanese President Lai Ching-te mentioned during an interview with the journalist Catherine Chang on the program The View with Catherine Chang that if China is concerned about its territorial integrity, why hasn't it tried to reclaim the land lost in the Treaty of Aigun with Russia? Now is the time when Russia is at its weakest. China could ask Russia for its territories now. It is clear that the invasion of Taiwan is not about territorial matters, but rather about China wanting to become a global hegemon and break the existing rules-based international order. President Lai's remarks were reported by international media, but the Chinese government didn't respond at all. Instead, it was the Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs that jumped in with a response. They pointed out that Russia and China signed the Sino-Russian Treaty of Friendship on July 16, 2001, in which both sides mutually renounced any territorial claims against each other, effectively resolving border issues. Furthermore, they used a rather crude term, barking, to describe Lai Ching-te's comments, and in an official capacity retorted that the government of the People's Republic of China is the only legitimate government of China and Taiwan's authorities have no right to make any statements on behalf of Beijing. That's a very interesting reaction indeed. If the Taiwanese government's statements have no legitimacy, why would the Russian government feel the need to respond officially? Meanwhile, China remains completely silent. The main reason for this is that China's current economic situation is quite poor, and it fears a united front of Western countries imposing sanctions on it. As a result, China highly values the existence of Putin's regime in Russia. Putin's presence enables China to access crucial natural resources from Russia's Far East region, such as coal, oil, gold, and fish. Additionally, China relies on Russia's Vladivostok port, which significantly benefits the economy of China's northeastern provinces. In addition to economic benefits, China can also leverage military cooperation to harass Japan and South Korea while countering the United States. When China's General Administration of Customs issued document number 44 in 2023, allowing Jilin province to expand the scope of cross-border transportation of domestic goods and add Vladivostok as a transshipment port for domestic goods. Experts predicted that China and Russia would likely strengthen their maritime military interactions and expand their influence. According to the news, on September 17, 2023, Russia's Ministry of Foreign Affairs announced that 2 vessels from China's Coast Guard had arrived in Russia's Far East to participate in joint patrols and exercises with Russian Coast Guard. Moreover, just last week, China sent 4 warships and 1 supply ship to participate in Ocean 2024, Russia's largest naval exercise in 30 years. This military exercise highlights the deepening cooperation between China and Russia, also signaling a growing partnership in both economic and military domains. So basically, China just didn't want Putin to lose face diplomatically. That's it. Although China and Russia seem to have a close relationship, in reality, Russia's Far East has long been in a position of being taken advantage of by China. The population of Russia's Far East is only about 8 million people, while the population of China's northeastern provinces alone is almost greater than the population of entire Russia.
Well, and that's why Russia is very reluctant to engage in any kind of direct conflict with China.
Locals in the Far East have long been dissatisfied with Chinese companies and workers exploiting forest resources, water supplies, and arable land, leading to frequent conflicts. Acts like Russian locals setting fire to Chinese factories are common. However, due to Putin's failure in the Ukraine war and the heavy sanctions imposed by the world, he now relies on Xi Jinping's regime for support. As a result, the voices of discontent from the local population are largely suppressed. This explains why in the past Russia would remain silent in the face of territorial disputes in the Far East. But now it acts like a Chinese wolf warrior, jumping at the first chance to lash out at a Taiwanese president they claim has no authority. This sudden change shows that Russia, once a powerful bear, has now become subservient, more like a dog at China's command. President Lai indeed struck a nerve with Russia. He exposed a hidden truth about the China-Russia relationships. There is a considerable resentment towards China within Russia, and failing to respond to Lai's remarks might have exacerbated Russian dissatisfaction and stirred nationalist sentiments. Russia's invocation of treaties and mutual agreements is essentially a tactic to control public opinion and maintain domestic stability in the face of growing internal discontent. Although on the surface it appears that the Russian government is maintaining its Sino-Russian Treaty of Friendship, we all know that China has been subtly taking advantage of Russia. For example, in 2023, when China released a new version of its national boundary map, it marked the entirety of Hexiazi Island, which was supposed to be split equally between Russia and China in a 2004 agreement, as its own territory. Hexiazi Island is located in the center of the Heilongjiang, Amur, and Ussuri rivers, also known as Bolshoi-Ussuriski Island. What's ironic is that the two countries had just resurveyed and finalized the border in 2004, yet only 20 years later the agreement seems to have been discarded. Exactly just like the 50 years without change promised to Hong Kong unraveled after just 25 years. However, I haven't seen any official protests from Russia regarding this matter. They have quietly swallowed it. To summarize the factors mentioned above, China doesn't want to provoke conflict with Russia because it can obtain the benefits it needs through a softer and more subtle approach. However, when it comes to Taiwan, China all of a sudden becomes aggressive, while toward neighboring countries like Japan and South Korea, it seeks to showcase its military strength. In contrast, on the border with India, it adopts a salami slicing strategy. This explains why there is a misconception in Taiwan that the Chinese Communist Party adopts a wolf warrior diplomacy across all border issues, such as with India, the South China Sea, and Taiwan Strait. But why does China seem to dare not act this way towards Russia? In reality, China is simply using a different approach to secure its advantages with Russia. If we only hold the view that China is afraid of displeasing Russia, we risk buying into Russia's own propaganda narrative, which could foster an undeserved goodwill toward Russia. Some may even unrealistically hope that Russia will counter China, and this leads to some people in Taiwan to believe that no self-defense preparations are necessary, which is a highly dangerous mindset. We cannot view modern Sino-Russian relationships through the lens of outdated stereotypes about the Soviet Union and the CCP. The power dynamics between China and Russia have drastically reversed over the past 30 years. We must base our understanding on current evidence and facts to gauge the true situation. Otherwise, we risk misjudging Sino-Russian relations, as seen in the international misconception that China could mediate peace talks between Russia and Ukraine, a belief also held by some people in Ukraine. In reality, the continuation of the war benefits China the most, as it exploits the West and America's war fatigue and desire for peace, further pressing and infiltrating Western countries. Russia's reliance on China also plays into China's favor, making the ongoing conflict an ideal outcome for Beijing. President Lai Ching-te's mention of the Treaty of Aigun may have been an attempt to sow discord in the no-limit cooperation between China and Russia. We can see that even within the alliance of dictators, there are individual calculations at play. Though they outwardly maintain a degree of unity because they share common goals, opposition to the United States and Western democracies. Yet democratic countries remain deeply divided, so we too must unite and cautiously confront this coalition of authoritarian regimes. We shouldn't become overly optimistic just because China's economy is struggling or Russia is failing at its war against Ukraine. I have to constantly emphasize that Taiwan must strengthen its self-defense capabilities and enhance cooperation with allies. On the one hand, we should seek ways to break through the so-called tight relationships between China and Russia. But on the other hand, we must not be overly optimistic. We should approach the Sino-Russian alliance with caution and vigilance. Although China's economic situation is not in its best shape, this doesn't mean that Taiwan can afford to relax. In fact, the CCP's infiltration and influence, not only in the Western countries, but all across the globe, is just starting to surface. Recent cases, such as a well-known New York official being exposed as a Chinese spy, or a female mayor in the Philippines, who is actually a Chinese woman using a local identity for over 10 years, are just the tip of an iceberg. There are undoubtedly many things we don't know happening behind the scenes. Additionally, the CCP's economic influence over Western countries is far stronger than that of the Soviet Union during the Cold War. The Cold War approach of complete disengagement, no interaction, no contact, no negotiations, simply won't work now. No democratic country where political parties need votes can sustain such a policy, and their economies would suffer greatly. As a result, most politicians have to take a softer, slower approach to decouple from China, and the CCP exploits this vulnerability. In addition to these complexities, there is another contradiction in the way China and Russia handle the issue of Taiwan. On the one hand, China consistently claims that Taiwan is a province of China. The Taiwan issue is an internal Chinese issue and the outsiders shall not interfere. This assertion underscores China's strict adherence to its One China principle and its rejection of any foreign involvement in Taiwan-related matters. On the other hand, Russia has placed Taiwan on its list of countries with hostile values. This raises an interesting question. Does it mean that Russia and China are hostile towards each other? While this could suggest a conflict of interest, Russia-China relations are often described as a friendly alliance, demonstrating the complexity of their diplomatic ties. But the fact of calling Taiwan a hostile state means that Russia is also violating the One China principle. It also means that Taiwan has its own foreign policy and it is acting independently from China, and China has no real influence on the Taiwanese government. The contradictory positions highlight the underlying tensions between the official rhetoric and practical geopolitical cooperation. Despite these apparent contradictions, the ultimate conclusion remains straightforward. China is China, Taiwan is Taiwan, and they're not subordinate to each other. In conclusion, regardless of the situation, the government needs public support. Misunderstanding the reality can lead to incorrect judgments and narratives that ultimately benefit adversarial regimes. This is something that requires our close attention. And thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, please press like, subscribe and share. This is Stan. I see you in the next one. Bye bye.